Welcome back to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated, which is why we focus on a simple, habit-based approach. We know that becoming the best and healthiest version of yourself isn't just about following macros, a meal plan, or killing yourself at the gym. You have to look at a holistic approach, looking at stress management, sleep, mindset, lifestyle, support system, and of course, exercise and nutrition. I'm your host, Nicole Aucoin, Registered Dietitian and founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, CrossFit HSN, and HSN Mentoring. I'm also the author of the Healthy Kids Cookbook, 100% kid-approved recipes the entire family will love. You can find it on Amazon. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to take one step at a time to becoming the healthiest version of yourself. Today's podcast guest is Amanda Haar. She is one of our Healthy Steps Nutrition headquarters dietitians. She specializes in women's health and hormone health. She also works with most of the families that are involved with family nutrition, virtually and in person. Amanda is a plethora of knowledge, and I'm so excited to have her on this podcast regularly. In today's episode, we talk about what you should do if you're feeling stuck. We know that progress is not a straight line, and we have to look at you as a whole person. You need to look at yourself as a whole person in order to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, we focus on a holistic framework. And in this episode, we talk about each pillar of that framework, why it's important, and what you should focus on when you are trying to incorporate a holistic approach towards your health and wellness. Enjoy this episode with Amanda Haar. Amanda, welcome back to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast.
It's always great to be here, Nicole.
Today, we are going to widen the lens here with nutrition coaching.
Yes.
So one of the things that we talk about Healthy Steps Nutrition is the Healthy Steps Nutrition framework, which is not just focusing on nutrition. We're looking at a lot of other aspects. And so many times when we are working with clients and they're feeling stuck, it's because one of these pillars is not being addressed and there's something going on.
You're right. It's amazing how all of the facets of our well-being work together. So nutrition is an important foundation, but we can't neglect all the other things that influence our hunger, our fullness, our stress, our hormones, all the other things together.
I want to give one of the most popular examples to why this is important. So stress management and mindset, mental health is a big piece of what we talk about even more now because so many people are struggling. And so many times people think like, I just need a meal plan, or I need someone to give me some information that a plan that I can follow. But stress isn't addressed. And how they cope with stress is going to the kitchen or mindlessly eating at night. And while they might follow the plan during the day perfectly, we're not addressing stress and they're not able to be consistent with the plan because they're going right to food.
You're right. It's amazing when I kind of think back to clients and where our biggest breakthroughs have come with even just biometric progress, right? It's when we start diving into the other components, especially the stress and mental health component.
Absolutely. So we want to find other ways to manage stress. And there's so many different ways, but of all the mental health therapists that we've talked to, the experts that we have brought in to help train our coaches, exercise and sleep and nutrition are the three things that they prioritize with their clients to help manage stress.
Right. And you think about that, right? So if you don't sleep enough, our stress levels, our cortisol levels go up. When we exercise, that helps to decrease our cortisol levels for the longer term afterwards. If we're eating a lot of foods that will spike our blood sugar and then crash our blood sugar, that causes our cortisol levels to go up. So there's this vicious cycle that comes when we feel stressed and then we don't give our body what it needs and it increases the stress. And then we go back to those foods for stress. It's just kind of this vicious cycle if we're not pulling the pieces out of it.
Absolutely. We ended up bringing on an expert, an author who wrote Your Brain on Food. And she talked about anxiety, depression, stress, and how the processed foods that we eat and even some different types of oils can actually cause those issues to be worsened. And if we focused on a whole foods diet, if we focused on balance, focus on protein and non-starchy vegetables, it'll help to kind of manage the mental health and the nutrition side.
Right. Exactly. It's amazing how it's all interconnected and how our brain responds so much to food, to movement. And I have to say, just for an example, like for women, we know in different phases of our cycle, we tend to have different strengths, different weaknesses. And during the luteal phase, I find that I'm clumsier. I tend to be a little bit, it's harder to be a little bit social, have a little bit more brain fog, but some things just like doing 10 minutes of yoga where I'm turning my body upside down and really going back to, some positive affirmations, how that can completely change the day. So really having those tools can be so helpful with that.
And being in tune with your body to know,
yes.
Hey, give yourself a little bit of grace. Cause I know during this part of my cycle, I'm going to feel this certain way. I know the Flow app tells me when I am going to be having trouble sleeping and all of these other things. And it allows you again to give yourself a little bit of grace. Speaking of sleep, that's such a huge issue for so many people. And when we don't get enough sleep, and we've had doctors come in and talk to our coaches. And even we had Dr. Danny Arcuyo do a podcast on Nutrition Made Simple on sleep. He talked about, how lack of sleep will increase cortisol levels. And then if you get 4 hours or less of sleep for a couple consecutive nights, your blood sugar actually starts looking like you're pre-diabetic.
Wow. And think about how that lack of sleep typically tends to affect your mental state too. Are you irritable? Are you tired? Are you craving sweets? That's all kind of signs that we need a little bit more sleep if you're not getting at least 7 hours a night.
The studies show 7 hours of sleep is vital. And, a lot of times when we're working with clients, it's helping them figure out what is your sleep routine. If you think about babies, right? Like they have a whole sleep routine, right? They have the bath, the lavender, the lullaby, the story, the coddling, like every little piece of the puzzle to help them wind down. And then for us, we might be watching a crazy TV show or on our phone scrolling, doing something or working ourselves up. And then we're like, okay, time to go to bed, turn the lights off.
Right. You can't just be that. And that goes back to hormones, right? So we have melatonin that tells our body that it's nighttime and goes to sleep. And really when it's dark, that's when our body gets a signal that I'm going to have melatonin so that I can go to sleep. But when we're having bright lights in front of us with our screen, our TV, our body's going to get all mixed up.
And I know for me, like if Jason, my husband, has something that's like aggressive on TV, like I get worked up, like my heart rate starts going. It is very tough for me to calm myself down. So I know that I do not like watching that kind of stuff. Like too much action before bed is not going to help me be able to go to sleep.
Right. And in general, so Nicole, what are your kind of top sleep hygiene strategies for your wind down?
Goodness. So, I think a big piece of it, I really truly try to prioritize exercise during the day, right? So like making sure that I have exercise. For me, when I don't plan out my next day, like at the end of my workday, I'll find myself having trouble going to sleep because I am remembering all the things I need to do the next day for work. Instead, like writing it down, like, okay, this is how I'm going to start the next day. So it helps me wind down. And then usually, we watch a little bit of TV with the kids and then I slowly just start winding myself down. We watch like something funny because I don't like watching anything stressful, something funny, like, get my mind off of whatever. And then slowly wind down. And we'll also play some games with the kids too, just to have the TV completely off.
Awesome. And have you found that like washing your face, brushing your teeth, do you have an order that you typically do that?
I do wash my face and brush my teeth for sure. And then go to bed. Yeah.
That's so cool. And I love how it's those like muscle memory things that can be kind of similar to the baby's song and bath and those types of things. Like it's those physical signs to your body that you're going to sleep.
That's a really good point. I never thought about it like that, but you're 100% right. Having a dark room, a cool room, we have a fan on, like the noise. So lots of different things that you can do, but you have to find yourself in a routine.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Love it. So we talked about sleep, prioritizing sleep. We have to get at least 7 hours a night of sleep. We talked about stress management. One of the big things that we talk about all the time is support system. who are the 5 people that you surround yourself with? And most people, when they hire a nutrition coach, they think, okay, well, you're going to be my support system. But the truth is, we're physically together once a month for 30 minutes, checking in, doing a follow-up. We might talk on the phone if you have a higher accountability plan for 20 minutes every week. We'll check in, but there are other people that are a lot closer to you that are going to keep you accountable or put temptations in front of you that's going to be really hard for you to stay accountable to yourself.
That is so true. And you think about, who are you physically closest with on a regular basis? It's your family.
Yep.
And your family can support your goals or they can detract from your goals. But I'm sure your family loves you. And so sharing your goals with your family and your why you're doing the things that you're doing, because sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating for family members if you're just all of a sudden changing things. That might be a little bit of like red flashing lights going off to them, because they're like, what? You're threatening our daily pattern that's going to add more complications, more things that I have to change to. But sharing with them the why of why you're making these changes, each step of those changes, and how you can support me in these goals, it tends to just kind of flip the conversation around.
I love that you just brought up how, because I think sometimes when people are trying to eat healthy and they talk about, I have these goals and here's the why behind the goals. If we don't define how we want our spouse or significant other to help and support us on the goals, it could cause extra tension between them, with them saying like, oh, you can't have that. Oh, is that on the plan? Oh, and like being a little bit more aggressive and then causing more stress between that couple, right? So we have to define, how is this person going to help support me on my journey?
Right. I think of one of the clients we've been working with quite a while. She's a teenager. So she lives in a household with, her parents, her siblings, and all are kind of in different stages of their own journeys. Some are just totally unaware of it. Some people are, kind of starting to come around, and she's kind of realized, I need to ask my mom to buy the green beans that I like at the grocery store and have a stock of them. Otherwise, no one else is prioritizing vegetables. So that's the way that I'm going to get that. Or I'm going to ask my dad to make the salad with dinner more often. It seems very simple and mundane type of things, but that availability of those positive options around you are going to make a huge difference on your success.
Absolutely. I think support system in the home is so important, but you're spending most of your waking hours with the people you work with. And if those people are not a positive influence or wanting to, go out to eat and go to places that are not going to have easy options for you, it could be tough to stay on track. I think that's one of the reasons why our employee wellness programs are so impactful and there's such good engagement, because everyone who's spending all day together is on the same plan, excited to eat healthy, and they're all keeping each other accountable. We started doing Nutrition Made Simple podcast episodes, and I started interviewing all these people that have lost 50, 100, 200 pounds. They all said the same thing. Like, the support system was the pillar stone of their success, right? They needed that support system to help them stay on track, keep them accountable when, all the stuff in life was happening.
That is so cool how you see a whole work culture change. That's just so impactful because, and I think of this example. So I never drank coffee before I started my first full-time job. And at the place, the nonprofit where I work, there was a coffee pot going all the time with creamer around and everything. And all of a sudden I became a coffee drinker, and that's not surprising because whatever's around you is what you're going to tend to gravitate towards. So changing the culture from the top down, so effective. And we even have some clients that, they tend to have that ripple effect. So they start to bring healthy foods in for lunchtime or say no to ordering out for Uber Eats. And all of a sudden their coworkers are starting to do so as well. So it's so cool when you take the leap to make those changes and make those changes known, how many people you're going to help in the process.
I love it. When we talk about support system, I think it goes right into the lifestyle pillar of the Healthy Steps Nutrition Framework. When we think about the missing piece of the puzzle, so many people are so good during the week and then they fall off on the weekend. They're in a different routine. They've got different people they're hanging out with. They've got different lifestyle habits that they like. And a lot of times it revolves around food and alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially weekends. Yep.
And instead, we have to find a lifestyle that is going to be conducive to the environment that we need to set ourselves up for the success that we want. We just went up to Gainesville, to UF last weekend, and we kicked off the weekend with the kids and Jason playing golf. I went to a gym that runs our nutrition program. Then we ran stadiums together as a family the next morning. Then we went to a gala thing, but then we also went and did another workout. So, we all exercise together as a family. Just because we went on vacation or went to go do something out of town doesn't mean that we can't stay active still.
Love that. And that speaks to the habits that you've established that you're carrying with you and not making a trip or a vacation excuse to stop those habits, because sometimes those are hard to restart. So having that habit of nutrition, having that habit of regular exercise, you're going to know when you're off of that habit because you just feel off not doing it. So I love that prioritization, because anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, right? So you said yes to exercise and possibly no to that huge brunch and mimosas. That might have been another option.
Definitely could have been an option in Gainesville. I think it all comes down to like, those are some of the pieces, right? And then when it comes down to helping clients see really good results, we have nutrition and exercise, right? Nutrition, when we look at Healthy Steps Nutrition, like, what do we believe? Like, what are the nutrition philosophies at Healthy Steps Nutrition? The first one we talk about is focus on whole foods first. What does that really mean? Do we go to Whole Foods?
Right. Well, Whole Foods has Whole Foods. Right. So really the foods that we eat, we want it to be in the closest possible form to how it was grown or raised. So we want less processed foods, which are typically food manufacturers adding ingredients into foods because they know it is highly palatable for us and that we'll buy more of it when they put those ingredients in there, a lot of times adding fat and sugar and salt. And we really want to be just kind of backing up, going through the outside of Whole Foods or other grocery stores that you're going to, and really buying kind of the real foods and cooking them. Sometimes you can even keep them in their whole food form, like let's say a hard-boiled egg and an apple. Like that's pretty for Whole Foods. And maybe I boiled the egg, but that's really simple and it could be so quick that way too.
Absolutely. So Whole Foods first, then we talk about balance. And the balance has been so impactful for people, especially the ones that are doing the continuous glucose monitoring, to see when they balance meals instead of just having carbohydrates, how is their blood sugar stabilized during that time? What about their energy levels? Because they're not having that spike in blood sugar and then the crash. How are they staying full because they have protein, carbs, and fat? Like, we don't need to eliminate one of the macronutrient groups. We just need to have a balance of protein, carbs, and fats with meals and snacks to help keep us full and satisfied and give us the nutrition that we need throughout the day.
Right. And it's amazing how you can feel so much more satisfied in that respect. I know for me growing up, it was a very like carb heavy eating pattern because that was like the low fat days where you're scared of fat. You want to eat all these like, processed plant-based foods. And I was always hungry, craving sugar more often, so many more energy, dips and raises. And so it's really cool to see when you have a pretty even split amongst carbs, protein, and fat, how just good and satisfied you feel on a regular basis and how much easier it is to not have cravings for all of those other foods that we want to eat less often.
I love it. So we want to have that balance. And then we talk about adding more whole foods in first, but at some point we have to address the sugar problem that we have, right? So the last thing that we start focusing on with clients is like, okay, how much sugar are you having throughout the day? Do we even know how much sugar we're having? What are the hidden sources of sugar that you're eating throughout the day? I know for my husband, he used to like pour the sugary creamer into his coffee. Now he's got his tablespoon, he measures it out, and he's perfectly satisfied with having 1 tablespoon of the sugary creamer. He doesn't have to have a ton, which he used to, but he still wants to enjoy a little bit. And he didn't even realize until he started measuring it out how much he was actually having.
Wow. And you think about looking at, let's say, a soda label. A lot of people still, drink soda these days and don't necessarily realize there's typically 2 or 2.5 servings of soda in a bottle. So you take the sugar on the nutrition facts label, which is somewhere around like 30, 37 grams per serving. But if you're going to drink the whole bottle, you need to double that amount of sugar that you're having just from that soda and double the amount of calories. So just being aware of nutrition labels and looking at the amount of sugar, and especially how a lot of times now it's added sugars are listed on the label. That's a really easy way to start kind of looking for those sneaky sugars that are added into your day.
And the cool thing is once you start realizing it, you're just so much more mindful, and then it becomes a habit, right? And it's like an unconscious decision of having a balance, focusing on whole foods, making sure we're getting vegetables in, and not having all of the added sugar. But then the best part to me is when clients realize how good their body is intended to feel when they start eating whole foods first, having a balance and limiting the sugar.
Amazing. Right. Like the higher energy levels, better sleep. I have to say, I've had several people I've worked with just the steps of adding more vegetables and drinking more water. They're like, I have so much more energy. It's amazing. Just we think about the holistic framework, how not only our body composition improves, but all the other things tend to get better as well.
Absolutely. People that are feeling stuck a lot of times are not addressing one of these pieces of the framework. Which one would you say is the most important?
I would have to say, that's a tough one. I would have to say slightly stress. Stress management has been the biggie and where we've really seen progress addressing it.
Absolutely. And I think it's because everyone's been in a stressful season, right? Like a lot of things out of our control, a lot of moving parts. Summer's coming up. So parents are trying to juggle kids at home and doing whatever, just a lot of different things going on. But the truth is for every person, their missing piece might be a little bit different, right? Like, yes, nutrition is super valuable. You need to understand the foundation there, but if we're not managing stress, if we're not prioritizing sleep, if we're not active, and I don't mean a heavy duty CrossFit workout, although I do think that is the most impactful and effective form of exercise, you could go walking, you could go running, you could jump on a Peloton. I don't care what you do, like get your heart rate up for 30 minutes every day and just move and start feeling that endorphin high and feel better and sleep better. And it's this awesome cycle of, instead of being in this vicious cycle, you feel so much better in all aspects of your life.
Right. And a lot of times we hear, I don't have energy. I don't have time for moving. But when moving actually gets you more energy, it's one of those things where it's hard to start, but you never ever regret it after you do it. So you feel a lot better after you move. And then really it's we just need to prioritize. Even if it's 10 minutes of movement, that's better than no minutes of movement. 30 minutes, even better. So really just prioritizing that a little bit higher on a priority list is going to be really effective.
I love it. So if you're thinking about this podcast, you're listening, you're like, man, I'm not prioritizing sleep. I don't even know where to start. We would love to help you. You can click the link in the show notes, apply for Healthy Steps coaching. You can apply to work with one of our dietitians and nutrition coaches, or you can go to highernutritioncoach.com and find a Healthy Steps nutrition coach near you. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to that episode of Nutrition Made Simple, all about focusing on a holistic approach and helping you if you feel stuck. If you enjoyed this podcast and you don't want to miss another episode providing free help to help you become the best and healthiest version of yourself one step at a time, please don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave us a review. It really helps this podcast reach more people so that more people can make health a way of life one step at a time. We'll see you back here next week.